This is the application that we have initially developed in Visual Fox Pro, adapted with FoxInCloud, and you can see here how it works um, with the original design, and that's the kind of element that you want to give to your graphic designer to be able to design the final application with all the effects that you want to have, with all the improvement that you can get from the graphic design. So you can see that all the forms are really rough. I mean, they are really similar to what you have in Visual Fox Pro. And that's not something you want to give to your users, of course, because it's too ugly. I would say it's too small. It's difficult to use, and also it's not responsive. So if your users want to have your application on a mobile phone or on a tablet, obviously it's not going to work, because if you change the size, you see that okay, it moves a little bit, but after a while it becomes unusable for someone who has a mobile phone. So, okay, that's the first step, and we'll see later how you can get to the design by the designer. Okay, let's see now what the designer has proposed to the customer. On this particular application, as you can see here, it's really different. I mean, everything is much nicer. You can see the fields that are animated. You can see the buttons here, which are also very, very nice. The forms are also designed, and everything is consistent. The buttons are red if it's okay, or they have very clear signs on add, remove, or download, and stuff like this. And you can see here also the page tabs are animated, and we can see the principle that we have a tick mark on the page when it's complete, and you can also have the same on this button, and with a color change also, which is nice. On the button, we can set up the price and stuff like this, and we can see the form being updated with the tick mark. And then, so everything is finally defined. We have the logos. Everything is quite nice. Also, when you have an error, you can see the color change here. So this is something that your user, your client, can easily validate, or yourself, if it's your own application, you can validate and ask the designer to go one step further, which is give us the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript elements for this kind of design. Let's now enter the last phase of the design process. At this stage, the designer has provided us the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files that we can install in some site. Like here, we have installed it in this on this site, and you can type this URL if you want to see the aspect, and if you want to download the files and study them, you can go just here. duxi.fr/ev. EV are the initials of the designer who has worked on this project. So now, even if there is nothing on the server is blind, is deaf and blind, you can still see what the user interface will look like when the application is going to work. And the designer has implemented all the effects and some critical forms that you want to check. For instance, you want to see if this form is correctly responsive. Here you get the answer to this question. And you can see how the buttons behave, how the hover effects are made, and you can also see the layout for critical forms like this one, to make sure that this matches the design concept that we had through the video that the designer has supplied us previously. So here you can see almost everything or whatever works on this project. You can see the templates that we have decided to implement with the designer. And also, if you want to go further, you can see the source code maybe of the page. Let's go here. Yeah, here it is. We have the source code, and the source code is here. Let's make some space here to see what happens. So you can see the HTML that has been manually written by the designer, and that you can inspect if you want to check something. You can see all the JavaScript file that I used here. So a lot of elements that you can check and make sure it works. So this is the end of the designer's work. If we agree on that, then we shall, in the next step, we shall take this HTML template with all the CSS that was provided by the designer, and we will integrate these elements into the FoxInCloud application.